Ball cards.
That was an aggressive, just drop of a word with no context at all.
That was the lyrical version of Down with the Sickness. Like that.
You didn't have enough like.
Wah.
You got to get higher. Wah! No, that was really bad.
That was actually worse.
Yeah, it was way worse. In my head, before I did that, I was like, this is going to be really good.
This ain't a country song, Alan
And then
Jackson.
it didn't work at all.
Yeah. Anyway, this is the Ball Card Show, the sports podcast.
For the Sports Collector,
I'm Jason Otero.
I'm Gary LeMaster.
And we are bringing you delicious content for your ear holes right now.
Everything about that sentence made no sense.
Gary, I'm a little more cultured than you are.
You taste things with your ears?
I cleaned my desk this week, so...
Kind of a big deal.
Kind of a big deal. I had a TV sitting on my desk, and I mounted it on the wall.
I'm really enjoying the cord management technique that's being used.
Well, half of it is... Oh, yeah, you like that tape?
Yeah, there's the 6 pieces of masking tape holding the cord to
This
the
is a
wall.
man cave. This is a man cave in the basement.
Oh.
Tell me that yours would not be hanging down, because I know you.
Oh, 1,000,000%, but it would
Exactly.
not be up there with.
Well, I didn't want it to hang
masking
over my
tape.
beautiful top sign.
Okay.
It kept falling in the way.
Okay.
So I put it over there. Really what needs to happen is the 67 Dolphins pennant needs to get dropped down over the front of it.
It's going to be crazy here.
If you're about to say something bad about that sultry photo of Eric Davis.
No.
Okay.
What I'm thinking is you could, and again, going out on a limb here, you could just get some wire staples.
Don't care.
Okay.
Don't care that much.
Okay.
We've already talked about it more than we should.
Okay.
And we need to move on.
All right.
How was your week?
Solid. I mean, some good pickups. If you guys watch our TikTok or Facebook videos, you see my weekly pickup stuff. And some of the nicer stuff I picked up is already gone. Sold that Joe Burrow. Sold that Mike Evans. Yeah.
Did you see my video?
No. When did you post a video?
I didn't.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I didn't know if you saw it.
You have
but
not been joining in the content creation side of this partnership much lately.
I've been consuming
Consuming what? Because that
content. I watched your video.
The color of what's in that glass does not occur in nature.
It's Gatorade. Yeah. I feel judged every time you ask me. Don't you worry about what's in that glass.
Who drinks just Gatorade in a glass with ice?
Well, there's other stuff in there.
That's what I'm talking about.
It's a Tiger Teeny.
Okay.
Google it.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I've been working like crazy.
You have. You're 8 hours a day eBay.
I'm working through the weekends. I'm scanning cards in. I've got about almost 7,000 cards in the store, which when you start moving like 50 a day-ish,
You got to keep up.
you got to keep listing a lot of stuff. But no, it's been a grind. It's working. It's working, and I'm working.
That's what we tell everybody all the time. You want to do this to make any real money, it's work.
Yeah, but
it's
been
fun
pretty
if you like it, but it's work, and you better really, really love the hobby. Otherwise, you're going to get burnt out real fast.
I've been putting a little bit of a dent in the 69 top set.
You showed me some really clean stuff. You're going to be screwed, though, because now you're going to want all the cards in the set to be that clean, and that means the Mantle and
Reggie,
Johnny Bench,
Pete.
and even some of the stars,
Lou Brock's not cheap.
No,
clean.
Oh, I did pick up a really cool Lou Brock auto this
Did you?
week. Did you see that?
No.
Yeah, it was in the week of the pickups video. You weren't paying attention.
Well, then I did see it. I just didn't care.
Yeah, fair enough.
I was unimpressed. He signs a lot. Not
It's
as
numbered,
much as
it's numbered to 50.
not
by
as
the way.
many autos as Rod Carew. Like Rod Carew has signed almost as much as Pete Rose at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
But
Also, nobody cares about Rod Carew. I don't know why, but they don't.
Twin City cares, right?
I don't know. I bet Walker Jenkins outsells Rod Carew in the Twin City.
No. That's a different game. That's
I'm
speculative.
just saying that.
I've been building a set for 2 weeks, and I've always been vintage, is what I'm trying to say.
He's an expert now.
But,
This is a funny story because I saw a small vintage lot on Facebook, and it was really cheap, and I know it's what Jason's doing a lot with it on his eBay store. So I just grabbed it. I didn't even message him first to see if he wanted. I figured worst case scenario, I could sell the stuff and make some money on it, but I figured I'd grab it for him.
Some good stuff in here.
It's mostly 64s. I thought they were 65s. And he's looking through them, and he goes, "Yeah, these are pretty clean for this set. A lot of people really like this set, these 64s." And I went, "I think they're 65s." And he goes, "Oh, no, no, no." He turns and he goes, "Obviously, you haven't been specializing in vintage for 2 months." It was a pretty funny line in that moment.
It is. Okay, so I'm essentially doing data entry for a living in my basement, but it's around sports cards. But you are literally building spreadsheets all day that you can just upload to eBay. That's literally what I'm doing. So what that means is you start to, 65, 64, 63. But I'll tell you what, it's not like now where the designs are, like, I feel like Fanatics now, and even Topps in the last few years, they try to make a dramatic enough change that it's like super obvious. But I guess if you grew up collecting these, you wouldn't even think twice. You're like, 64. 65 has a little pennant on it. It'd be nothing. 68, 70, whatever. So
68 I recognize because the border is so
weird.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know what they were thinking. It's like somebody poked a bunch of holes in Spam and then took a picture of it from 50 feet away.
I like that you said Spam.
Spam's delicious.
I was watching a documentary.
Got to make you some sugar fried Spam sometime. Go ahead. Sorry,
it was on YouTube. This guy travels all over the world, and he just like dives into different cultures. And it's really cool because he's like genuinely curious about how different people groups think and all this. But he was in an area where Spam was like super popular, and he goes in the grocery store, and there were more variation. Did you know there's a jalapeno Spam?
Yeah.
The
Spam's amazing.
No.
There's teriyaki Spam.
Calm down. Can you eat that on your diet?
Not the teriyaki, but I can eat Spam.
Have you done it?
Yeah.
You have?
Yeah, I like to shave it real thin.
Yeah.
Like thin ham, and then just...
I've got one for you.
What's that?
I think we've talked about it. I'm not sure. You had Scrapple?
Oh, yeah.
You can have that right now, can't you?
Yeah. I can
mayonnaise?
also have head cheese, mayonnaise, yeah.
Can you have? Is there any kind of form of bread that you can have?
Nope.
Is there any
Well, let me rephrase.
fake bread, faux bread?
If I eat just a tiny little piece, that would be my entire carb intake for the whole day. So I don't do it.
I think you should waste that on Scrapple. Is you get a thin slice of toast, crispy, and put mayonnaise, and then you crisp Scrapple on both sides.
So for me, I would just eat the crisp Scrapple and dip it in mayonnaise. I don't need the bread.
You're a monster.
Like same thing with head cheese. People look at me like, "You eat head cheese straight?" Yeah.
Well, you do that for attention.
Head cheese is delicious,
listen,
man.
Half the stuff you eat, you like. Half of it is for attention.
That's false. I
no,
like
it's
it all.
true. You should have a TikTok channel of Gary Eats. People just like, oh my God, how is this guy alive? How is this man alive?
I mean, my typical, I'm eating one meal a day right now, and it's usually about a pound of meat and 4 or 5 eggs.
That sounds great, man. I'm really proud of you.
I've lost like 35 pounds in 7 weeks.
You're freaking starving yourself.
No, I'm not even hungry till I eat.
How many calories are in 1 pound of meat and 4 eggs?
1,800 or so, because I'm also eating.
Not a chance
Time
in this
out.
world.
Let me finish.
Not a chance.
Can I finish?
How many calories of condiments are you having then?
Well, butter. Lots of butter. I fry everything in butter. And like, so when I make the eggs, I'll put about a half a cup of shredded cheese in the scramble.
Okay, half a cup of cheese.
Which is about 250, 300 calories.
Okay.
The eggs are 280 calories. So just in my eggs, I got 500 to 600 calories. And then a pound of steak fried in 2 tablespoons of butter.
Oh, my God.
Like, I'm fine on the calorie standpoint.
Do not trust a fart, dude.
I'm good on the calorie intake. Yeah.
What is the how many calories are in a pound of beef?
About 800. 800 or 900. And then the butter's another 300. So I'm eating 2,500 calories a day.
No, your math sucks.
Can we finish? Because I'll also, like, after dinner, because I usually eat dinner between 4 and 5.
Uh-huh.
And then I'll usually have some mozzarella cheese at some point or some pork rinds. And I like the chicharrones, not the pork rinds. I like it with the fat still on there.
So you have found a really miserable way to do a caloric deficit, basically.
I enjoy it. There's no misery.
I just wondered, like, essentially, this is just a caloric deficit, but in a different way.
Yeah, and you're also not putting any, like, process. I haven't had sugar in 7 weeks.
Have you peed on one of the ketone sticks? Are you in ketosis? Do you know?
I can't imagine I'm not, because I'm consuming way under 20 grams of carbs a day.
We got a ton of those, dog. I'll let you borrow some. We got the ketone strips around the house.
Oh, shoot.
Well,
so diet update,
if
guys.
y'all wanted to know if Gary's peeing ketones, there we are. Sorry, I'm just having an off week this week.
It's all right.
Let's talk about the thing that everyone else has already talked about for the last 5 days, which is this massive. I'm calling it a heist because that's exactly what it was. Somebody watched the Italian Job and was like, you know what? We should do this with some sports cards. And by God, 4 people did that down in Dallas. Estimated. Now, I don't know if it really matters if somebody stole $1 million or $2 million worth of cards, but somebody stole.
$2 million.
Somebody's livelihood was stolen.
Well, about a quarter of his livelihood, because he's got like 4 of those cases.
Oh, I was under the impression that was the best stuff.
Well, it was probably the best stuff, but yeah. So the guy here's
then he's fine.
It has actually crossed over into somewhat popular culture because a guy at work today walked up to me and goes, "Hey, I know you do sports cards. Did you hear about this?" I said, "Yeah, I actually know the guy it happened to."
So if you didn't see it, Dallas Card Show last week, which there are cameras everywhere for this, they were tearing down from the show. And there were 4 guys that have been at the show already. They clearly had cased the space out. They had set up I would call it it was a somewhat thought out plan.
It was a very thought out plan.
There were decoys. There were people creating distractions.
Well, it sounded like, from what I heard, that from the guy it happened to, that those guys that were the decoys had been to their table multiple times throughout the day asking questions about things. And so then, like you said, they show up and he has 3 employees with him. And the guy who walked away with the case was acting like he worked there. He had changed his clothes from earlier in the day, and then he was stacking chairs at the end of the show for like an hour.
Super smart.
Yeah, and then he waited for his compatriots to distract the 3 employees, and then he just walked over, picked up the case that had $2 million worth of high-end vintage in it.
And they knew exactly which case.
Yes.
Like, if you see the video, there's like a cart or a pile. I can't remember if it was on a cart, but I mean, there's 20 boxes around there, and they knew exactly which case had all the 52 manuals.
He was stacking chairs and watching as they were putting their stuff away, so he knew exactly which case to grab.
Yeah. I just think it brings up an interesting conversation. So one, this is horrible. I don't personally know the guy, but I've interacted with him on Facebook. He's active in a lot of the seller groups that dealers are in. He is probably internationally recognized as being like a highly reputable vintage dealer.
Yes.
And when we talk about vintage cards, the guy has some 6-figure cards and multiples.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, I'm looking for this year a mantle. Well, how high a grade are you looking for? 'Cause
right.
I've got it.
Yeah.
But super respectful, very nice. Whenever he posts stuff on Facebook and the groups, I'm like,
he's just like, ooh,
maybe one day, you know?
right.
But so it really sucks that this happened. At first, when I saw the post, I was like, there's no way somebody made out with all that, because he said, here's the photos of what was taken. And I'm like, how in the world could that much be stolen at once? Because you hear stories of, like, at the National, people grab a stack of cards, or they act like they're flipping through, and everybody has a backpack, and people were throwing a few cards in here and there. Like, that's what we're used to hearing. Or we have this weird incident up around Cleveland, Strongsville, which ironically enough is close to where we're staying for the National, where, these cards were stolen. These guys have been caught. But now we're talking like $2 million. Like, so here's my question to you. And I think it's, one, some criminals are really smart. Some criminals are really dumb in deciding what to steal, right? You hear of people stealing really rare items, and then they're caught within like a month because it's super rare.
Right.
But, like, are we talking like legitimate professional criminals at the point where they're deciding that is it really possible for you to steal that many graded cards and move them in a way where you're not caught? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Absolutely.
So how okay, by this point it's been a week. We have videos, we have photos. There are tattoos on these guys. You can really make out their faces with these images that we have. Is it that liquid?
So here's
compared to, because it's the same felony,
5,000 versus
bank.
2 million.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So you're at the same level, like you're over $700 to the nth degree.
It's the whole conversation of, if you're gonna steal something, go big, because you get punished the same if you get caught. So this is kind of the OJ version of this. The if I did it, that particular type of collection. If you're going to try to do this kind of a heist, this kind of a dumbed down Ocean's 11 type of move,
this is like from a movie.
Yeah, it's the smartest thing you can do, and here's why. None of those cards are numbered. And all you got to do to move them is take them out of the cases that they're in. And now you have raw cards that can't be proved that they were the card that was in that slab. And here we are. And if they're smart, what they do is they've got a network of 25 or 30 people scattered all over the country that they will funnel those cards to raw. And once every month or two, it'll get put into a PSA submission with 15 other vintage cards coming from all over the country in different places.
I think you're bringing up a really good point here.
And now you've washed all those cards, and now you've got $2 million worth of inventory.
I'm going to try to do something here, which we never do, which is pulling stuff up on a computer like every other podcast. But
what are you looking for?
I'm going to go to the PSA pop report.
Yep.
Do you want to pull it up?
I
That's
can,
quicker for
sure.
me. I just want to know the pop report on these mantles. Because there were how many of those? 52s, right?
There were like 5 or 6 of them.
I think it was more than that. I do.
I didn't look hard at all the pictures, but
it was like an amount where I'm like, okay, if this is okay. I mean, I'm guessing there's thousands. This is probably dumb, but do you think these get cracked and resubbed often?
Yes,
Really?
I do think they get
There's
low
a massive
grade
risk.
ones do.
Okay, yeah.
So here we go. 52 tops, Mickey Mantle, card number 311. There are 5,000. There are 304,000 of these that have been graded.
Wow. Okay.
So again, one of the things that I think people get very confused about highly valuable cards, they're not necessarily rare. Like they just really aren't. Hold on, that number might have been for the full
ridiculous.
set.
No way.
Hold on, here we go. No, there are 1,652 mantles.
That makes more sense.
There are 3 10s, 6 9s, 35 8s. There are 85 1.5s, 80 like there's a good chunk of these out there. But again, the card
Oh my
itself,
gosh, there's 5,600 that are autographed.
yeah. It's not a rare card. It's just a rare card in good condition, and it's a rare card to find. They made so many of this set that Topps was on the verge of bankruptcy, so they sank thousands of cases into the Hudson River in New York to collect insurance money.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like the 86, 87 Fleer Michael Jordan that goes for huge money. It's not rare at all. Like, not even remotely rare.
But what I wonder is, so if you're at PSA, you're aware of this happening. I feel like there's been a little bit of pressure on PSA, especially coming off of the Kurtz Card Care thing, especially with some of the just back and forth in the media with them. I guess I don't know the other way to say it, but the sense that I get as somebody that's a dealer and talks to other people that are in this pretty heavily is that it is a polarizing relationship with PSA that a lot of people have.
Yeah, people recognize that in order to maximize the value of their cards that are graded, they need to go to PSA, but they also hate PSA.
So my question is, if 5 of these showed up in the next month, would that be a massive influx of these?
It would be, and if the people who had the smarts to do this heist actually did it that way, then they're morons. Again, the issue becomes if you crack them out of the slab, there's no way to prove that it was the exact same card unless it had such a serious defect that never occurred on any other card. And in that situation, again, if they're smart, they crack all that stuff out, and they're not subbing it 5 Mantle rookies over the next month. They're doing it over the next 5 years. And they're doing it
I don't see
with,
people doing this being willing to be. I don't think they're going to maximize value. Here's my prediction.
well, they might just dump it all.
That's what I think it is. Let's cut this down to $750,000 immediately.
And then somebody else can do that.
Yes.
And that may happen.
Yeah.
But I think that the chances that any of those cards are still in the slabs that they were in when they walked it out of building are slim to none.
Now, here's the thing. I've cracked several slabs. You have. When you start talking about something that old, it's a way bigger risk than.
Well, it is. That being said, when you have no money in it, what's the risk?
Well, I mean, the risk for damaging the card.
Well, no, but
Yeah.
but you didn't pay for it.
I know, but if you shred one, that's going to be concerning.
Yes, but now it's a 1 and it's only worth $20,000.
Right. I understand that.
Right? Like the point being that those things are out of those slabs. Every single one of those cards is out of those slabs.
So I think that we catch the people that did this. I don't think we catch the cards.
Correct.
So how does this play out legally, you think?
Well, I think that legally they get prosecuted for grand larceny if they're caught. I think that Ashish gets insurance reimbursement.
So let's talk a little bit about insurance reimbursement, because it's something that, especially people like me that have just been in it for a little bit, are not thinking about.
Yep.
So I'll throw some numbers out, and this is not a flex, because if you do the math on this, it's not exciting. Like right now just in the eBay store that I have, close to 7,000 cards. And the cool thing is, when you click on your active listings, it'll show you the total value of your listing. So like right now I have, so if you put everything on eBay, that is a way to track the estimated values, right?
Yeah.
Here's what we're asking. Now, obviously you can inflate that price.
Sure.
Like I have that 66 Cassius Clay. I'm at the top of market. Go find another one.
Exactly.
Somebody might argue it's worth a little bit less than that. But I think my store is worth, like, at this time, what's listed is like 33, 34 grand, something like that. So I don't think about insurance, and I definitely don't think anybody's going to come take away a bunch of $2 to $5 cards. But
but your basement is flooded.
yes. So for guys that haven't thought through this, how does this work? What do you recommend? Because I think it's an important conversation.
There's actually a product out there, and I don't know it off the top of my head, but I know that it exists, and I will get the information and I will share it with you guys next week. But there is a company out there that is specifically specializes in insuring sports card collections. Not only do they insure it for loss like this, but one of the other things that they insure for, and they actually pay out, is lost mail, damaged mail. So, and it's not crazy expensive. Like, it would probably cost me, and this may sound like a big number, but when you think about the value of my collection or the value of your collection, it's not a huge number. It might cost me $60 or $65 a month to insure my stuff. But just my showcases that I sit out at a show have 20 grand of stuff in them, and that's just 50 cards in 2 showcases. Like,
yeah, and a lot of people are like you and me, where, like, probably some of my more valuable stuff is just in my PC, and I haven't ever thought about insuring that, but that's growing.
yes.
So, like, if you haven't gone through it in a while, like I actually was going through my case the other day, I was like, oh man, like,
yeah.
I've purchased a few more PC cards than I realized.
Yeah.
And now what I'm looking for is more unique and more rare. And I think there's a lot of people that got back into the hobby around the same time that I did, that they might be surprised where that value is. So, you know, this is who we should reach out to for a sponsorship,
right?
Honestly. But
the point being that if you have a collection that has some value to it, or you ship and receive cards, like, I can't give my wife a hard time about Amazon showing up at our house all the time, because I get 20 packages a week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No exaggeration. I get 15 to 20 packages every single week, sometimes more.
Yeah.
So if you're doing that a lot, you may find a lot of value in that insurance product. And I will get the name of that company. It might be like Collect Insure or something like that, something along those lines.
I remember seeing a video even today I was watching where somebody was talking about this. But so let's shift gears a little bit. National's coming up in a couple weeks, which we're
it is Collect Insure, and
Okay.
it's collectinsure.com.
We do not know how well they do. We just know that that's what it's for, right?
Yes, and I know people who utilize it and have utilized it, and they have had
Okay.
good success with it.
All right, cool.
So,
Yep.
anyhow, go ahead.
Check that out. So, all right, Nationals in a couple weeks. There's got to be a lot of morons that are strung out that see this video and they're like, there's $2 million at one box. And they don't realize that 95% of people don't have that much in one box.
There's
There's probably
be,
10 or 20 or 30 grand in just about every table of now at the National, it's going to be way more.
There's going to be $1 billion worth of cards at the National.
Yes.
With a B.
Yeah, there's no way to haul all that out, right?
Right.
At once without a semi, and like that's
and
more
massive amounts of security. Like the
Sure.
Dallas show, where this happened at, they do a good job down there.
They had cameras on everything.
Yeah, but they have like 1 or 2 security guards. At the National, you will see a security guard every 30 feet.
Yeah.
Like there's security guys, and they're not just security guys like mall cops. They're like legit.
And it's going to be so crowded in there. that other collectors that see somebody stealing lose their minds because if it happens to you, it just sucks so much.
Yeah.
Like I've had like teenagers grab like a few times when we've been out, they all hang around the box and you realize you lost a $30 card, right?
Yeah.
That ticks me off. It's
Yeah.
not about the $30.
No.
So you stole from me.
It's about the fact that you
Yeah.
stole from me. You thought you could get away with it. And what
Yeah.
really pisses me off is when you do get away with it.
One of the things I heard somebody talking about today, I believe it was Junk Wax Hero. I was watching a video on YouTube, said, you know, one thing that potentially would make sense was because of the nature of the hobby, people tend to kind of linger at these events. And what if at a certain time, hey guys, the show is closed. If you're not a dealer, you got to go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, for the life of me, I'm torn because I've had half of the shows where, well, that would have been nice. And I've also had half of the shows where somebody came walking in late and spent some money.
There would be a lot of pushback from dealers for somebody to do that. Here's what I say.
However, if they said it on the front end,
yeah.
hey guys, because of what's been happening, because this year we've had more large number, you know, high value thefts, when we say this time, that's a hard stop. And if it became the norm, then those people that come in lingering last minute are going to show up 30 minutes early.
Well, you know what's going to happen. You know what the next product that's going to hit the market is, right? It's going to be a slab case that has an unbreakable compartment that has an air tag built into it. That's going to be the next thing on the market.
Which, if you don't have air tags, like I'm going to buy a few.
They're cheap.
Yeah. $25.
Throw them in your shit, and then you'll know where it's at.
Prime Day's coming up.
But also, thieves aren't dumb, so if they see it, they're going to pitch it. That's why somebody's going to make one that has it embedded in the case itself.
Well, yeah, if there's four guys, that box that was stolen probably went in four different directions as soon as they left.
Oh, yeah.
So, because I've seen Italian Job.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It's heartbreaking. I hate that for Ashish, but I really hope that I don't know, like, what more you can do other than beef up security. Like, Dallas is not a small show, so there probably should have been somebody there.
So, beef up security, and then again, and this is just, when I say this, don't take this as me thinking that Ashish or his guys did anything wrong, because I'm not saying that they did. But pay attention. I can tell you this. I don't have $2 million worth of cards.
Big difference between
Okay.
you know.
I probably have in my whole collection $60,000 or $70,000 worth of cards. I promise you, at shows, my eyes never stop moving, and if somebody is standing talking to me, they will see that my eyes never stop moving. And I've had somebody say, hey, are you paying attention? Yes, I'm also paying attention to all of my inventory because I'm the only person here at my table.
Well, that's true, but you've also never been, you know, rolling with staff 4 deep in a whole corner unit with 10 tables, right?
For sure. You know? But it's kind of one of those, to me, in that situation, that's something. And I think he understands that because, like, when he made his post announcing that this happened and asking the community for help tracking this stuff down, one, as somebody who's respected in the business, as somebody who has a reputation nowhere near as big as his, that's just a pride-sucking moment to have to sit down and say, hey, I just got robbed. I need your help. So that sucks. You never want to kick somebody in that situation while they're down. But I can tell you there doesn't exist a world where I have $2 million worth of cards in a box, and that box just gets sat on the ground underneath a table 30 feet away from anybody. Mm-hmm. For me. Now, maybe he's just desensitized to it because he deals with it all the time. And I will walk away from my showcase that has 10 grand sitting in it, 20 grand sitting in it, and go look at something.
You go get a lemon shake up.
Yeah.
And be like, you got this? And then 3 people come walking up to my table. We're just spread thin.
Yeah.
Just the way it is.
And the thing is this, we don't want to, it's a lot like a poker room, right? 99.9% of people in this hobby, even the ones who don't bathe and don't wear deodorant, aren't thieves. And they're reasonable.
Is that 99% of the hobby?
Well, not that doesn't bathe, but it's a lot. They're not thieves, though, right? It's like going to a poker room. If I'm at a poker room at a casino and I want to go get dinner, I can leave $2 grand worth of chips sitting on the table, and I don't worry about it at all.
Yeah.
But, man, when it does kick you in the teeth and it's like this, it's tough. But like you were saying with the National, I mean, there's some tips Like, do
Yeah.
we want to dive into some tips for guys
Let's do
going to the
that.
national?
One last thought I'd have
Yeah.
is like at a smaller micro level, you have a smaller show, you run it, you want to do something, just do a small credential. It could be like a cert, like, you know, like you go to the, back in the day, you go to go-kart places and it would be like today's the green wristband or the orange wristband, right? Like the cheapo do something to identify who's supposed to be there, because that guy never should have been stacking chairs.
Right.
Like, in my opinion, that's what should have been caught. Hey,
Right.
man, are you supposed to be here?
Yeah.
And right now in card shows, small and large, I mean, aside from national, I'm guessing like there's not a ton of that, and so that's a small thing that can be done. Like if you know, you and I are very connected to the local, like the, you know, especially in Ohio, the guys that
10,
set
15
up
shows that, are all in the cycle.
That wouldn't be a bad thing to get started. I don't think anybody would complain about it.
No, and I think that it also goes to show that humans, there's an old adage that you can go anywhere you want to go as long as you act like you're supposed to be there.
Yep.
Right? Like, I could walk into the CEO suite of whatever company if I'm dressed the right way and I act like I'm supposed to be there and I don't look nervous and I look like I know what I'm doing, nobody's going to stop me.
Well, and for another $10, we're going to have a deputy on location.
Yeah.
For every table.
Now, I know some dealers who would be like, I'm not paying an extra $10, blah, 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 blah. Just like, I'll tell this story after we talk about the national because it'll come up in that.
Okay.
So, yeah, national, 2 weeks. I've gotten, in the last week from listeners, I've probably gotten 7 or 8 different DMs on Facebook or on TikTok asking about the national and what it's like and is it worth going and, you know, is the experience worthwhile and what should we expect? So I thought we'd take a few minutes and kind of dive in. This will be your first national. Yep. It'll be my first in about 3 years. 4 years? Nah, I didn't go to the last Atlantic City one. I went to the one before that. So 4 years. And I've been to several. So let's talk about what to expect. So first and foremost, if you're going to go and you want to actually experience it and shop for cards, one day ain't going to cut it. Okay? It's not. You might get through 10% of the show.
Back up.
Yep.
What is this convention? Am I going to hear people talk about what's happening in the hobby? Am I going to buy and sell? Am I going to meet players? And like primarily what, maybe in a good way to say is in comparison to what Fanatics is doing on the East Coast, what is the national?
So it is a little bit of all of those things, and you can make it what you want to be. I know guys who literally go to the national and pay for the highest level just to get all the autograph tickets, and they are content to stand in autograph lines for 10 hours a day to get autographs from all these guys.
And meet 10 Hall of Famers
Yes.
over the weekend. Yeah.
And that's what they go for. I couldn't care less about any of that. Like, I will not be in any autograph lines. I will probably find some kid who wants my autograph tickets and give them to him because I don't care. If I want somebody's autograph, I'd rather go buy it than stand in line for 20 minutes to get it and then have to send it to PSA and get it certified. Like,
what would be funny, though, if my buddy, our friend,
Yeah.
is signing, because I have his collection here.
Yeah.
What if I took one of his cards to him?
Yeah, and said, hey, I know you left this here for me, but can you sign this real quick? But the thing about that is, why would I do that? I'll just grab him the next time we play golf or whatever. Hey, sign this for me. So you can make it what you want it to be. So there's all of those things. There's not as much of the like round table offshoot, like speaking things. There's little bits and pieces of that. But it's mostly just the world's biggest card show. Like, you're talking 5,000 tables. Think about how big Xenia is. Now multiply that by 15.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And then there's also trade nights almost every night. And there's an after show that goes from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. every night at a separate location for dealers who couldn't get in at the National that will be banging every night. I won't go every night, but I want to go at least once or twice. You will see all kinds of things. You'll see some of the coolest cards and pieces of memorabilia you've ever seen before. You will also get annoyed with things.
It's going to be very people-y.
It's going to be very people-y. So tips and tricks. One, bring something to sit on. Okay? That's first and foremost. Your legs are going to, and your feet will hate you if you don't. If you're staying
Well, now
the
they
whole
have
day.
like these very slim, collapsible stools
Yep.
and stuff.
Which is what I'm taking. But
There
bring
are
something
also
to sit
like
on.
if you're willing to spend a little money for something you'll use, and this is more for people that just aren't aware of this. There's rolling cases for cards that you can like actually sit on.
Yeah, you can turn it into a stool.
And you'll.
I don't know that I can or you can because I don't know that they're rated.
Well, I can
for
turn
us.
anything into a stool, but I can also turn that stool into dust.
Yes, exactly. That's the thing. Kindling. So bring something to sit on. Secondly, if you are looking for a PC item that's like a grail card for you, something you've wanted to find forever, if you don't find it at the National, it probably doesn't exist. Okay? But if you go to there trying to think you're going to buy it for what it comps for,
No.
that world doesn't exist.
What is a table cost for a dealer?
$1,800.
And a lot of these guys are buying like what's the common number? 4 tables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're in the show by the time it's all said and done for $10,000.
So guess what? Day 1, not the time to try to come into 70%.
Day 5, you're not, every showcase, anything desirable is going to be 130 to 170% of comps.
Yeah.
And when you ask them about selling it at comps, they're going to look at you. They're going to look over your shoulder at the 15 people behind you waiting to look at their showcases. They're going to tell you to get out of their way.
Yeah.
Another tip: if you see something that really jumps out at you've been
Better
looking for,
go
you
for
better buy it.
Yeah.
Because when I say that there are 100,000 other people there, that's not an exaggeration. Over the next 5 days, there's going to be 100,000 people, and very good chance they're going to be looking for the same things. So you're not going to find value in showcases.
So on the website, they actually offer like a virtual map to get an idea. It's probably not a bad idea to have a plan of like what you're going to try to hit. So for me, you and I, card-wise, are looking for a little bit different stuff. A goal of mine is to, and we're similar in this way, we both want to murder the value boxes.
Yep.
But I'm even going to be hanging out in the dime and quarter $1 boxes.
Yep.
When you see a table that has that, so typically here's how this would go for me. Let me know if it's different on the National.
Yep.
This is a situation where a deal might be different. So from what I understand, a lot of these guys at the National, they've been purchasing collections all year. These dollar and dime boxes are like leftovers in a collection. And is it poor form to say, hey, if I build a huge stack of this, will you work with me?
No, it's not poor form. They're usually going to...
The deals are already in the boxes?
The deals are in the boxes, but more importantly, the way you're going to get those deals is if you start going through a 4-row and half of the first row looks great, and then you go to a weird spot in the second row and it looks great, just look at the guy and say, hey, what do you want for the whole box?
Yeah.
And just buy it. You will find... So you just bought 2 4-rows from a buddy of mine. And... you weren't sure what to expect. When he sells these, he doesn't take a bunch of pictures of them. He's just like, hey, this much. Do you want it? Yeah. No. And you're going to murder out of it.
Yeah.
You'll 10x your money.
Yeah.
That's what the boxes at the National
And he's
are
happy
like.
with that.
Yes.
He doesn't care.
That's exactly right. So that's what the value boxes at the National tend to be like. Here's my pro tip for this. You see a table, that a quad table setup in a horseshoe, and they've got showcases across 2 or 3 or 2.5 or 3 of the tables, and then one table that's full of value boxes. Take just a glance into the showcases. If on first glance it looks like the cheapest card in the showcases is $1,000, sit down and dig through those value boxes, because guess what they don't care about? Anything worth less than $1,000.
That's a great point.
They don't care.
Yeah.
You will find, if you are willing to put the time in, $100 cards in dollar boxes.
I think there's another category of people that are going to be going to this, and it's people that truly... It's not that they need a card. It's not that they're scanning cards to put on eBay and they're looking for a great flip. It's just people that really want to see awesome cards.
Yes.
They probably are going to have the most fun.
Yes.
You and I are going to be working.
Right. And that's another thing. Like, so I've had people say, well, why do you tell people how to do this stuff? Because I know that 1 out of every 100 people that hear me say this are actually willing to do the work that I'm willing to do.
Yeah.
They might go through 10 boxes, but then they're done for the day. They've spent 2 hours digging through the boxes, and they're like, we're going to be 10 hours a day.
It will wear you out.
It will, but I mean, that's part of the grind. My goal is to go up to the National and 10 to 15x my money. I want to spend $3 to $5 grand and have 30 to 50 grand worth of inventory for the next year. And it's not going to be all 100 and 200. It's going to be 10, 15, $20 cards, $50 cards that I paid $1 or $2 a piece for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's tip number one. Bring something to sit on. Tip number two, know how to find the right boxes to dig in.
What's the food situation here at the National? Because I'm very concerned about it.
So there's plenty of food, but it's going to be convention center prices.
Is it going to be like nachos and hot dogs?
No, it'll be like you go to the Columbus Convention Center. It's very similar.
The what?
The Columbus Convention Center.
Okay.
There'll be a Starbucks. There's normal food. There'll be like a food court area. But I'm
asking for the listeners, not for
convention center prices. But yeah, you can't do it in one day. I would suggest at least 2. And if you really want to actually go spend money with the goal of making money, you need to put in the 4 days.
Yeah. It's 5, right?
Well, it's 5, but Wednesday's a preview day. We're going up Thursday morning and diving in. So those 3 things are big. If you are taking stuff with you to trade or sell, your target should not be the dealers that are there. The target should be other collectors. There are lounges. There are places where you can sit down and gather. There are trade nights. Your goal should not be to sell your stuff to other dealers unless you have unbelievably rare and unique stuff that somebody just needs to have. Like if you have some kind of insane Jordan card that is super rare and you see a table that is nothing but super high-end Jordan stuff, yeah, it might be worth walking up to that guy because he may pay you full comps for it at the National.
I know that with the boxing stuff I'm taking up, if I see a boxing table, I've got to at least start
yes,
the conversation.
Absolutely.
And see what can happen.
But in general, and stuff like that's a little different. Most of the people listening to us don't have graded
Vintage.
Cassius Clay rookies, right? But if you're taking your, say you got lucky and hit a Wemby to 50 and it's a PSA 10, and just take that to a trade night or talk to other collectors about it because that's where you're going to get your most value for it.
And pro tip on that card, trade night, if you're willing to entertain the idea of partial trade, you can do you have so much leverage in that, and just tell people, I'm open. I'm really looking for stuff that's liquid.
Yeah.
Unless it's, and then the nice thing with you and me is that actually, all right, so this is a little bit of just sales strategy, but you and I have, I guess Marina wouldn't be so much, but our PCs aren't like insane. You have weird ones.
Yeah.
So you could say, unless you have a weird Ed Oliver or, a Ken Anderson or an Eric Davis.
Right.
Ichiro, that's a little more pricey. Marino,
I did just pick up a nice Ichiro this week.
Did you?
Yeah.
But you say, unless you have that, most people aren't. So then it's like, if you don't have that, then, stuff is liquid.
Yeah.
So I'm looking, anything partial trade I do, I'm probably targeting football already.
Yep.
Or Hall of Fame autos.
Well,
or high grade vintage. But those guys high grade vintage guys do not, 5% is margin for them.
Yeah.
They're hard to deal with.
Yes. And another one to think about with all of this, as you're walking around the show, this is really big, and especially in comparison to what we were just talking about with all those cards getting stolen. Your cash, if you have a brain in your head, is in one of 2 places. It's either in a front pocket, not in your wallet, in your back pocket, or, and do not under any circumstances put it in your backpack that you're carrying around. If you want to get one, Zion cases, and I think they're dumb, but they make a front sling that's like a fanny pack you wear across your chest.
But it's huge, yeah.
Do that. So it's always right against your body. Unless you have no feeling in your body, you can't be pickpocketed. Because on a regular basis at the National, I hear horror stories of people getting pickpocketed or somebody just walking behind them as they're walking and through a crowd, and you're getting jostled, and they unzip a bag while you're getting jostled. You don't know it. They reach in and grab whatever and walk away. And an hour later, you go to open your bag and pull something out, and it's gone. Mm-hmm. So use your brain. Think about it the same way you would as if you were walking through a bad part of New York City at night. Protect your stuff the same way. And that way you never put yourself in a position where you're screwed. There's no worse feeling than something like that happening to you. And there's no recourse because whoever did it's long gone.
Oh, yeah.
Long gone.
I keep mine in my underwear because then, there's no. I mean,
When you pay, do you give people nose plugs first or?
No, I wring it out and then I hand it over.
So
Hey, shout out to our boy Randy Duck Butter. You know what I'm talking about?
basic.
Hold on. I hate to interrupt you here, but I was corrected that there's also another Ryan that I forgot about.
Okay.
That's my boy Ryan Ratchford.
Okay.
1250 Dirty South Misfits, South Pickaway.
Okay.
Shout out. Gang, real recognized real.
Oh,
AKA
gosh.
Ratchford.
So those are like the main things. Then the other thing is this: get plenty of sleep because you're going to need it, and get plenty of caffeine in your system. Stay hydrated. That sounds dumb.
It does sound dumb.
But it's the truth.
I think people know that basically.
Do they though?
Yeah, I don't think you're offering anything special there. It's been really good until you said hydrated.
Okay, well, I'm telling you, the plenty of guys on a yearly basis. Last year in Chicago was terrible because the AC went out
I'm telling you right
in
now.
half the building.
I don't care how good of friends we are. If that AC goes out, I'm gone.
You're at the Airbnb?
Yeah. I'm at the Airbnb. Yeah.
So those are the main things that I would say if you're going to go. Keep all those things in mind. Have a good time. If you see something you like, buy it because chances of it being there later, slim to none. Somebody's going to come behind you and pay whatever they have on the tag for it. And enjoy yourself. If you've got stuff that's unique that you have a hard time moving in your local market, that's a great place to take it to because somebody's going to collect it.
One tip I would also throw in, if you're newer like me, you probably don't realize how many of the groups you're in, YouTube channels you follow, influencers, they're all going to have something going on. Like on this day, we're all grabbing lunch, or at this night, we're all meeting at this bar, or we got a group that we're going to catch up with that's going to Top Golf one night. Like, put yourself out there.
Yep.
Like, there's a lot of ego in this hobby, but one thing I'm learning is I have never gained more traction than when just said, hey, I do high volume, low end. And everybody's like, oh, really? And it just cuts through the BS of me trying to flex all these cards.
Yeah.
It's already opening doors for me.
Yeah.
So get plugged in. Try to build some relationships.
It is a great networking thing. And if you come
and
up,
it's a smaller community than you think it is.
Yes, and reach out to us if you want to meet us. If you listen, and we're going to be there Thursday to Sunday, send us a message. Say, hey, we'll be at this pavilion. Come say hi. We are going to do some live content. That is the plan, to do some live content while we're there. We'll either stream live on Facebook or on TikTok. We will be probably recording at least once while we're there. We've even talked about doing some just quick, maybe either every night or every other night, like a 20-minute episode that we can just get out there. Here's what we saw at the National today. Here's what's going on. Oh, that was another thing. Now I remember what it was. I knew it was going to pop into my head as we talked about the National. Topps just came out with their redemption replacement program. They're rolling it out at the National. Are you with me? Did you see this?
No.
So Topps redemption program now, so Panini's done this for a long time. If you have a bunch of outstanding redemptions, and they equal up to enough value, they'll give you a white box, or a black box, or whatever it is. And, they'll do that. Well, with Panini, it's usually $1,500, $2,000. Topps is rolling theirs out, and it is being rolled out. If your redemptions are outstanding and they're not fillable at that time, for every $100 worth of value, you get a Topps black box. And the value in those is anywhere. The floor is $50 and the top end is like $7,800. I'm going into the National with the goal of buying a few of those boxes because I guarantee you that there will be a very robust secondary market
I didn't think about
for
that,
those boxes at the National. And low-end play, if there's stuff out there that isn't being redeemed and you can buy it cheap enough, it might be smart to buy it.
So what are you looking for? Are you looking for a certain year range?
Well, no, it's just whoever hasn't signed stuff. I mean, there's stuff from this year that
how do you figure out who that is?
Go to eBay and search a player that you're interested in and search redemption and then search that card and see if you see both. And if all you see is the redemptions, they haven't started filling them yet.
Yep.
But I want to try to buy. I'm kind of guessing that those things will settle in at about $175 to $180 a box. Mm-hmm. It's one card. I think that if that happens, I might try to buy 4 or 5 of them.
Wouldn't be bad to sell them sealed.
Well, I said if I buy them, it would be maybe open one just to see, and then the rest of them hang on to.
You hit one big one and rip the rest.
No, if I hit one big one, I'm selling the rest because you know that the rest of them aren't
no
going
way
to be
it's
great,
keep
right?
happening, yeah. Yep. All right, we got an update. We were the first ones to drop this story, and we say that proudly. Gary's over here picking wounds. That's not gross. But we were the first to drop this story about the Perfect Game lawsuit, countersuit. There have been some documents filed. Perfect Game has attempted to seal the document, but they were too late to the game.
Yeah.
There are now videos leaking showing Perfect Game players signing autographs with no legal guardian in the room.
Yeah.
So 30-second recap and then an update on what's going on with that.
So you just gave the 30-second recap. The update is that Perfect Game is now trying to cover their tracks. And, we talked about the fact that they had, if you had $799, you could buy all the contact information you wanted for every person that's come through Perfect Game system, from guys who are currently in the majors to guys who are in this coming draft, guys that are in the minors. It was all out there. And once the lawsuit that they tried to file against Josh didn't get sealed so that there was no public, viewing of the evidence, within 48 hours of Josh's countersuit and them not being able to seal their suit, all of a sudden that access went away. Everything got shut down. So they're trying to cover their tracks there. It was a weird week for me because even though my name wasn't attached to it for about 36 hours, I was trending on Twitter. Because after we dropped our episode, I told Josh, I said, hey, we talked about this. Appreciate you letting us break that story. Our audience is not as big as a few other people's audiences. So do you want me to reach out to some other people that I know? And I did. I reached out to Sports Card Radio, and they trimmed my name off of it, which I appreciate, and busted it out to a few other news outlets. And Sports Card News on Twitter retweeted it, and then it got retweeted like 35 or 40,000 times. Yeah. My message to Sports Card Radio, which was kind of cool. I don't know if they'll talk about it on their live this week. I'd be surprised if they don't. It was definitely an interesting week for me on that front, though. So I think that we'll continue to see the meltdown of the Perfect Game empire, and the question becomes who steps into that hole. And see what happens.
Yeah. That was a lengthy episode.
52 minutes.
Yeah.
Look at us.
I've got nothing to add.
Okay. I think we covered everything we wanted to cover, and then I remembered the one other industry thing.
And I got to see you pick a scab in front of me.
You did. Pretty exciting, wasn't it?
This has been the Ball Card Show, the sports podcast.
For the Sports Collector.
Bye now.
Peace.